Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Yellow Book Road. This episode, we're going to be talking about payments. Up until recently, I think something that I just sort of took for granted, as with a lot of things that I've encountered over the past couple of years, you just sort of think that that's probably not a problem or a problem that's already been solved. But oh, wait, it is quite a problem. And my friend Chris is joining us from Ascend, who I think is potentially the Stripe of insurance and insurance payments. So, Chris, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Chris, for all of these, I'm going to give you a little bit of an opportunity for an elevator pitch. Who are you? What do you do? What does Ascend do? Why is that important to us?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Nick. Excited to share the time with you today. So a little bit about me. My name is Chris Peabody. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, so OH, and been in insurance for, coming on 5 years now. I got into insurance through an insurtech with Bold Penguin, was there for about 4.5 years. And then
that's how we met.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
In the good old OH.
That's right. It was at a happy hour that we got together like 2 weeks into my journey into insurance, and I was just overwhelmed by all the insurance knowledge around me, and I was just a fish out of water for sure. But I took a little break from insurance, and Ascend sucked me right back in to just help solve a lot of the headaches that payments really is for agencies and even MGAs, wholesale brokers, carriers, to alleviate a lot of the downstream activities when it comes to collection of payment, and making sure that things are done effectively, while also creating a seamless client experience for the insured. But then there's also a lot of upstream headaches relative to if an agency is, going to have this insured pay in full, what does that process look like? Versus is it going to go the premium finance route? There's a lot of obstacles that agencies have to go through, which ultimately kind of, make the client experience somewhat of a hassle. So Ascend is really tackling all areas of the value chain relative to insurance payments, while creating a nice seamless experience for the insured, which ultimately can help retain that client for years to come. So that's a little bit about what we're doing.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that because I want this to be a conversation about the opportunistic nature of payments. And while we will dwell, I think, a little bit on some of the pain that comes with it, the choke points. I think I think what excited me about having this conversation with you and sharing it with my audience is the opportunity that creates. So when I first started in insurance, there was only two ways to pay your bill, right? You either wrote a check and mailed it in, or brought it to the agency, which was me, the agent, or you came in with cash and change, and I would sit there and count it all out and then write you a receipt. And then I would have to take that cash and deposit it into, or send it to get deposited. And then we'd send a check over to the insurance company. So payments has evolved quite a bit, right? Over time, over the last couple of decades. Can you talk both insurance wise, but maybe even non-insurance wise, what payments is? Because I don't think people understand just how significant payments is. We're talking trillions of dollars of monetary transactions that are going back and forth. So can you talk a little bit about just like how significantly digitization has evolved payments over the last couple decades?
Sure. I mean, you talk about this very like mundane process, and someone comes in with a duffel bag full of cash, and then you have to count it all, and then you talked about your process in terms of making sure the insurance company gets paid what they're owed, and maybe there's a wholesale broker involved. They need to take, their cut of everything as well. So, there's a lot of moving parts relative to that. And, there's all these different e-commerce companies where I'm trying to buy a t-shirt and they make it so simple where I just plug in my credit card. Or you mentioned when we last spoke, you love PayPal, right? Like how easy PayPal makes it to
I just used it yesterday. I literally clicked pay with PayPal. A window popped up, a little thing spun, and it said, "We recognize this computer. We know who you are. Transaction done." Literally seconds done.
Yep. And so like we as consumers expect that experience now. And it's trickled down to insurance where even though it's not as simple as, we think it is when we're buying that t-shirt or that cool picture of the plane on the wall behind you, it's not that simple, right? So part of what Ascend is doing is like we're realizing a lot of the friction that exists from when payment is made. There's still a lot of activities that have to happen on the agency side of the house. So when payment is made through the Ascend platform, we're able to collect that payment from the insured. We're able to pay the agency their commission, and that's all done within less than 24 hours. We then pay the MGA, the wholesaler, if that party's included. We're paying the insurance company as well. So there's all this activity where you might have someone inside of the agency that's having to do all these things. Well, with Ascend, we're just eliminating a lot of that effort. And ultimately that helps make a more efficient business inside of an agency at the end of the day, because people can be dedicating their time to other activities compared to, counting that cash or, having to take a check and go to the bank and deposit it. Like, who knows, maybe there's a check that gets lost in the mail or you have it sitting underneath a stack of documents, right? So if we're able to make that whole process more simplistic and easier and more efficient, everyone's happier at the end of the day. Oh, and by the way, you created an Amazon type experience for your insured.
I still think we are underestimating the problem that exists here, because when you and I spoke, I think I told you I was having a conversation with a technology executive at one of the largest insurance companies in the world. And he said, so let's put aside for a second, just all of the manual processes you just talked about. Someone makes a payment in good faith, work still needs to be done. Ascend can digitally clean that up. Even in a digital environment, 60% of all of the calls to a call center revolve around payments, and they almost all occur within a month after renewals. So there are still, even in this traditional standpoint, there's still a ton of overhead at the agency side. So every call that a policyholder makes, right, almost invariably is going to affect the carrier and the agency and potentially the MGA or the wholesaler. Like, you could have still a whole bunch of human overhead just trying to figure out what happened with this one transaction. Can you talk a little bit about that friction and how cleaning it up on the front end and having that experience has cascading benefits to it that go into overhead operations and overhead expenses?
Sure. No, most definitely. And I think, this might be more relative to, when an insured is financing their policy and, there's a third party involved. The insured may not know who that finance company is, and they might have to create an account with that finance company. And, that's kind of where they're logging in each and every month. And, life happens. You have a business that you're operating and you forget to make your payment. And it's like, oh crap, my policy is going to be canceled, whatever. So now I'm going to call whomever, whether it's the insurance company, my insurance agent, maybe it's this payment company that I'm, having to log into to deal with. And again, like, there's just a lot of unknowns relative to is my policy in force or is it being canceled?
Right.
And, that's also another area where Ascend kind of comes into the fold is we're able to handle a lot of those downstream communications to the insured. And that's all done with the insurance agency included. It's branded to the insurance agency. So, when a policy is purchased, and if it's either done on a renewal basis where they have an automatic withdrawal coming out of their account each and every month, or maybe they just want to deselect the option to renew their monthly payment. Regardless, there's communication that goes to the insured with the agency included to say, hey, Mrs. Smith, your payment is due in 7 days. Hey, Mrs. Smith, funds are being withdrawn from your account today. Hey, Mrs. Smith, you're 5 days late on your payment. We're going to send you a notice of cancellation. So being able to include all of that communication to the insured directly to them while including the insurance agency, hopefully they're proactive and they're reaching out to Mrs. Smith as well saying, hey, payments due. Do I need to update your method of payment? Being able to do that inside of a send. So, that's a great point as well, Nick, is like, once it gets to the point, okay, policy's enforced. Well, am I late on my payment? What's going on? Who needs to be communicating with me? I forgot my password to log into this platform. 1, 2, 3, my cat's name isn't working, like whatever it is, right? So there's definitely a lot of friction that exists after that initial payment is made as well.
Yeah, and it's we're not talking about deadbeats, right? Like,
people want to pay their policies.
Exactly.
Like it's not like they disregard it.
It's the lack of communication, right, that becomes the problem. Because I had lunch with a private client, high net worth broker, and they have the exact same problem, right? So it's really around. I think it gets to insurance is just not a product. People value it, but in a much different way than they value, their automobile or their iPhone, right? Or those pieces of equipment. And so there's not an eagerness to pay it. It's just like, oh, I value it, but I'll get to it when I get to it. And I think the lack of communication, I think this is one of the areas where you would think this is a solved problem, right? Insurance companies and even agencies and MGAs and wholesalers have been billing since forever, starting with, maybe the Pony Express, but, the mail, right? And now in a digital format. But it's the lack of communication. It's like, okay, here's your renewal and here's a bill. And you got 30 days. And then that's kind of it. You're almost basically buying a problem. Like it's inevitably going to happen.
Well, it's funny, like it was maybe like a month or so ago. My wife was getting a new car and we show up to the dealership and they say, hey, Chris, your insurance is expired, because I had missed my payment by 2 days. So I'm literally like, I'm texting my insurance agent because I'm like, hey, Jim, I thought we were good here. And then I'm logging into my insurance company's app to throw in my my bank information so that way we're good to buy this car. But you're exactly right. Like, no one's communicating with me. No one's calling me to say, hey, Chris, payment's late. I mean, I think ultimately all we want is just like that, like you said, that touch point. We want to have that line of communication ultimately to make sure that we're good.
Listen, I think people could think of it as like babysitting, right? But I think that's the customer experience that people are expecting. It's like, hey, in some way, and it can be digital, right? Just let me know, like, hey, you got 30 days. Hey, you got 10 days. Hey, you got 5 days. Hey, you're really pushing the envelope here. Come on, like, let's not have a problem. So, I think to me, it sounds, after thinking it was like a solved problem, now I'm thinking, well, this is low-hanging fruit, right? All from the carrier all the way down to the agency, to this is a problem that you can solve and look really good while solving it.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit? Going back, I started out by collecting checks and cash, right? Can you talk about all of the different ways now that payments can be made and the flexibility that's given to the consumer around how they can meet those obligations?
Yeah, no, most definitely. So, part of the value that Ascend is bringing to the table, I'll step back and kind of talk from an agency standpoint first, and then move into the client experience. So again, there's a lot of friction relative to agency bill, whether it's going to be a pay in full account or if it's going to be a finance policy. And so through Ascend, we're just creating a simplistic intake form, whether that's data being pushed into Ascend from an agency management system, or whether that's data that's being entered into Ascend manually. And what that does is it creates a single payment link. And that payment link can hold up to 9 individual policies. So you're not having to send out potentially 9 different payment links to the insured. We talk about friction, right? So being able to, almost create this shopping cart experience, right? That payment link is sent out to the insured. When the insured opens their email, they click on that payment link. That surfaces 2 options. Either, hey, I'm going to pay my policy in full, and I can enter in my credit card. I can pay via ACH. Talk about getting modern. You can link your bank account to Plaid, or you can also do a wire transfer. So that's part of the experience if the insured wants to pay in full. If they want to finance their policy, we're providing a finance agreement on the spot. We're making the premium finance agreement, which looks like you're buying a home, look very simplistic. They're able to look at those details of the finance agreement. They're able to understand, okay, when are my payments due each and every month? They can open their premium finance agreement. It's click to sign. So there's no, hassle of having to license DocuSign or any sort of e-signature tool. It's click to sign. Methods of payment are the exact same. Once the payment is made, again, Ascend is handling all those downstream activities relative to collection of payment, making sure that the agency gets paid what they're owed, and making sure that the additional respective parties get what they're owed as well. So, it's very clean. We're not to the point where we're accepting Bitcoin or Ethereum yet, but soon, that could be the future. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So
I think this is the good segue to start going from, we've talked about how important it is and the pain points and, I think what digitization does to actually solve the problem. I want to talk about the opportunistic element to this. So, the lid's been blown off a little bit on just the marketing, hey, you're going to avoid a lot of overhead by proactively communicating with your insurance, right? And so you would just avoid the influx of calls. But in a day and age where I'm very vocal and concerned about the commodification of the distribution element, right? Like what can agencies, wholesalers, brokerages, and MGAs do to differentiate themselves in the marketplace? I want to talk about a little bit more about agency bill. In my day, agency bill existed and it was a pain in the butt, right? Like if you almost magnified the problems if you had any sort of billing issue, because now it was someone on the agency side who sort of had to unwind all of the transactions to figure out why it was a penny off, right? But in this day and age with digital technology, I think things have changed and it creates a very unique opportunity. You already hinted at it, the ability to take 9 disparate policies and kind of group them together so that you don't have 9 different billing problems. You have one square one that you can kind of clean up. Let's go into agency bill and what does the modern agency bill system do and look like, and what are the opportunistic benefits for agencies, wholesalers, MGAs, and brokerages?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Nick. And I think, when I was talking to some of my agency friends, they had discussed like how they would steer away from any sort of agency bill opportunity because of the operational headache that agency bill presents. They would literally tell a client, hey, sorry, I can't help you. Maybe let me refer you to another agency that I know who can help you out. And hopefully they're going to help them out because, again, agency bill there's just a lot of friction relative to that entire process inside of the agency, making sure that they're able to, handle the complexities of collecting payment, reconciling their commission, paying the MGA or the wholesale broker, and then paying the insurance company, making sure that they're getting paid on time. So there's just a lot of nuances to that where Ascend is looking to alleviate all those headaches by being that collection point of the payment once it's made by the insured, paying the agency what they're owed, paying them their commission, paying the wholesale broker, paying the MGA. They're getting their money faster, so they're super happy, right? The insurance company is getting paid what they're owed as well. So
faster.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
So if everyone's getting their money faster and they're getting everything, in an accurate way too, like how can you not be ecstatic about that? So it's again, like you said, there's so many different hoops that people are having to jump through. And if we're talking about, premium finance alone, like, okay, I have to go to my premium finance company. I have to, send them the information about the insured. I have to get a premium finance agreement. I have to upload that into a DocuSign, send that to the insured, get the signature. Okay, now we send them the payment information. Okay, get the pay. And then there's also like the policy docs that need to be signed off on as well. So there's just like so many things that create so much friction. And we do such a good job of this as humans to just like tack on more problems that we think are really fixing things when ultimately they're not. And so through technology and using a solution like Ascend, ultimately that reduces the headaches, provides a better client experience, and it just makes things work. It makes things happen.
Yeah, I especially like that. If you have a client, and as that client grows in complexity or arrives at your agency with complexity, it's very likely you're going to have multiple carriers anyways, right? So initially, the payment problem is going to magnify itself across, all of the different policies that they have with these disparate carriers. And the agency, the MGA, the wholesaler, can proactively handle that friction point in one fell swoop. Like, talk about like an element of differentiation between them and an agency, but also who does the agent want the customer to most appreciate, the agency or the carrier, right? Like it is a true way an agency can differentiate themselves or separate the value proposition of the entire insurance operation by separating themselves from the carrier and the all of the different carriers and the potential pain they could be introducing to both the policyholders and the agencies around this. And of course, it can all be done digitally. I'm assuming like all of this data is like can easily be managed by an agency accounting ledger, a digital software package.
Yeah, no, for sure. And even if you think about like insurance companies having their own payment terms and when they're owed what, when, having to manage that and understand, okay, I need to pay Liberty, net 30, but Hartford will do net 60, like, just being able to manage all that across all the different policies for one insured. That's only one insured, right? So, and you have more than one client as an insurance agency. So it's just like having to manage that and understand who's owed what, when, making sure it's accurate. There's just a lot of nuances to it that I think, we think are simple, but really it's hard it's hard to manage.
Yeah, completely. So sort of like where we've come with this is that this sort of digital payment system, one, increases communication, right? So decreases the call center activity, disgruntled customers when they get the cancellation notice and things may have crossed in the mail or they just forgot. So that's a net benefit. then you get the net benefit of fewer arithmetical problems or accounting issues, right? And you get the potential to differentiate your agency by simplifying the process to one bill kind of situation. And icing on the cake, everybody gets their money faster. But it's like so many wins. This is the promise that a digital solution is supposed to bring to the table. It's just amazing that we've gone this far without having that. What do you see as? How do you see this potentially evolving? We don't have to bring up crypto. I'm assuming that eventually that will happen in some form or another. But where could payments go? I'm assuming this could go into like rewards systems as well, claims, and like just seeding elements, like the full digitization of the stack, completely reducing the friction. Where do you see this going?
Yeah, no, the rewards thing is interesting that you brought up, and I think there's a couple insurtechs that are doing something along these lines. But I think what kind of excites me is, like, ever since I got into insurance, there was always this like dialogue of the agents going away, right? But then there's this drum that's being beat across the industry of agents aren't going anywhere. And that's my belief, and that's Ascend's belief, is that the insurance agent is here to stay. They're the trusted advisor for the insured. They know how to handle all the nuances of complex risks that are out there. And for Ascend, we can help provide an additional touch point, through that agency bill experience and having the agency's logo surface when it comes time to payment. But you mentioned, the rewards. It's like, hey, this is another way for me as an agency to increase my interactions with my clients. This is a way for me to, maintain, call it stickiness, or a likelihood of they renew each and every year. If I can give them a $50 Amazon gift card or whatever the reward system is. But I think it ties very nicely into, payments. But I don't know. I mean, I think there's so many different ways that, what is going on in the payments world can just increase the client experience and make it more friendly. But I don't know. I mean, I like you said, there could be the crypto element. Who knows? Maybe we start accepting Venmos at some point at Ascend. I'm not certain.
It brings up an interesting point, because the technology has evolved so rapidly. I would even say that since the evidence points to even the carriers are not doing a very good job around it, right? Again, the majority of the call center activity is around payments and payment related issues. So there's a problem there that it's almost like this should be one of the functions that companies within the ecosystem just outsource to professional firms, because it's going to keep evolving, right? And if you have that in-house and you own it, so you own the code and you own the team that's sort of plugging in wires and stuff, you're accountable now to keep up with the evolution of it. Whereas you could have a company like Ascend, whose main function is to keep up with it, right? And so there'd be an expectation that you would evolve with the technology. Do you get that sense over at Ascend that you guys have you like, since that's your mission, you guys pretty much spend all day long just studying payments in every facet, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity beyond just kind of handling everything that is agency bill. We've had many conversations, and many people have come to us to say, when are you going to tackle direct bill for us as an agency? There are some large agencies that I've talked to that had said, so Chris, I need you to build me a direct bill portal that I can send to all my clients. and then we're going to have a lot of fun together, and it's going to be great. So, I mean, that could be somewhere where Ascend goes. You know, we're still young as a company, and I think it's important for us to be just laser focused on handling a lot of the things that are ahead of us in the coming months. But there's so much opportunity for just like payments in general, and obviously people need to pay for their policies. So how it's going to be done, you know, it'll continue to evolve over time. But yeah, there's, like you said, there's a lot of resources being sucked up on the carrier side of, you know, answering calls all the time. And, you know, I was that person. So I can totally relate to that.
Yep. So Chris, I will put your contact information in the show notes. Anyone that's listening, you want to contact Chris, learn more about Ascend. I will obviously blog about this, so I'll make all that information available. Underappreciated topic. Chris Peabody, thanks for joining us.
No, of course. Anytime, Nick. I'm grateful for the opportunity to chat, and look forward to the next one.
Okay, until next time, everyone. Thank you.